Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video. Really excited to see you all again. Onward with our Linux journey. And like I mentioned before, this skill is very critical and it served me very well in my career as an engineer. In today's video, we're gonna build on ideas and concepts that we've learned in the past. You're gonna learn all about removing files and directories. Now remember, if this is your first time watching the video, make sure you go ahead and check out the description, as there's going to be all the information that you're going to need in order to be up to date up until this point. So if you're not up to date, it can be very easy to get lost. So make sure you check out the description for all the latest information. Now, how do we go about removing files and removing directories? And now we're going to work with the command called rm, or I like to call it remove. So if we go ahead and we look at the man page for rm, we see here that rm allows us to remove files and directories. So this command, in order for it to work properly, we have to give it the command itself. We then give options, and then we give the file or the directory that we're trying to target. So remember, command, option, and first argument. And again, I'm going to leave you guys to read the actual manual itself because there's a lot of things in here that you will definitely need. We'll work with some of the options, but it's going to be up to you to actually review this and understand what are the options that are necessary. So let's go ahead and quit out of this. So we know we're in the My Directory. And let's say I'm interested in removing the file that I just renamed and the directory that I just renamed. And as you can see here, of course, it's myfile3.txt and downloads 3. So let's work with the file first. And how we work with the file is we use the rm command. Next comes the options. And in this case, for this example, we're not going to use any options. And we're going to specifically target the file, myfile3.txt. So the next thing that comes up is our first argument. So let's go myfile3.txt. And let's hit enter on that and see what we get. So the command ran successfully. Let's do an ls. And you see that myfile3.txt is no longer around. We just removed it. Now let's do the same thing for the directory that's in there, and it's downloads 3. In order to remove directories now, same thing as our other commands when it comes to cp, you have to use the flag in order to recursively delete the directory. If you don't use the -r flag, you will not delete the directory. So let's actually look at that first and see what kind of error we get if we don't use the right option. So I'm going to go ahead and use rm without any options, and we're just going to target the downloads 3 directory. And as you see here, the terminal tells us cannot remove downloads 3. It is a directory. So what this is telling us is we're missing the -r. So let's go ahead and do rm-r, which is going to be our option. And we're going to give it our first argument, which is going to be the target directory, which is downloads 3. And let's hit enter on that. And now it's asking us, remove write protected regular file. When we copied this directory, there was contents inside of the directory. So these are the contents that it's asking you whether or not you want to remove them. So let's go ahead and say yes. And then if we do an ls, you can see that it's all gone. Okay, so let's back up for a second. What if we have, let's say 100 files in that directory? Are we going to say yes every single time we want to delete a file in there? And that's the beauty of seeing what other options are available with the rm command. So let's run that example again, except this time I'm going to teach you a new option. So that way you don't have to hit yes to every single file within the directory. Hey guys, quick pause. Hopefully you're enjoying the content. If you are enjoying the content and you find that it provides value, make sure you go ahead and subscribe to the channel and turn on your notifications so you don't miss out when we upload to the channel. Make sure to give me a like for the video as it helps the channel grow. Share the video with a family member or friend so that way they can learn all about engineering, tech, and finances. Also, leave me a comment. Do you guys have any questions on what you learned so far? I would love to hear from you. So let's head back to the content. So here we are again with our My Directory. And of course, I populated it with our downloads 3 directory again. And let's take a look at what's inside of our downloads 3 directory. And as you see here, it says the pull secret and also the rel PEM key. So as you see here, there's 2 files. There's the text and there's the .pem file. So at this point, what we can do in order to avoid having the terminal ask us if we want to delete each file, we can do an rm, give it our options now. So R for recursive and then F for force, meaning don't ask me. And let's target our argument, which is going to be downloads 3 directory. Now let's see what that does. So as you can see here, the command finished successfully. And let's see if that directory was deleted. And of course, the directory was deleted, except we weren't asked for anything because of that -f option. So keep that in mind. There's a lot of different options for each command, and it's really, really cool to make sure that you understand what options are available to you. Now, this next part of the video is just to show some of the powerful things that you can do with the terminal and why a lot of people favor the terminal instead of graphical user interfaces or GUI like you would see either by clicking things, or most commonly people think of Windows whenever they think of a GUI. So in order to see the power of this, and again, we're going to use the commands we just learned, let's go into our desktop directory. So now that we're in our desktop, let's create a file called file1.txt. For those who like to use the GUI, we can take a look at what's happening by clicking activities, and let's go into our files, and let's go into our desktop directory. And there is the file 1 that we just created. Well, what happens if you need another file? You can do touch file2.txt. And now you just saw file 2 is created. Awesome. So here's my challenge to you. What if I need 2 through 100? Are you going to sit here and type in file 3, file 4, file 5, and so on and so forth until you get tired of doing that? Or for my Windows users, maybe you can right click and do new folder for a new folder, or maybe new file for a new file. Are you going to do that as well? And this is one of the powers of the terminal in what we would call shell expansion. You can actually use shell expansion in order to create all those files for you. So let's go ahead and, as a quick example, do touch file, and we open our brackets for shell expansion, and we do file 3 all the way to file 100. We close the bracket for our shell expansion, and we call it .txt. Let's hit enter on that and see what we get. So with one simple command, I just created 98 different files because, again, we had file 1 and file 2 already created. And as I scroll down here, I see all the different files. So file 100 all the way to file 1. Pretty cool how you can use the power of the terminal and some other very cool features such as shell expansion to do work very, very quickly. Building on that example, what if we want to get rid of all these files? Well, we just learned how to use the rm command, so let's go ahead and use rm. I do caution you on this. You have to make sure you know exactly what you're doing and double check, triple check. What's the saying goes? Measure twice, cut once, or measure 3 times, cut once. However many times you want to measure, right? Double check that you're actually going to want to delete what you're saying you want to delete. So in this case, I'm going to use the -f command because I want to force and say, yes, go ahead and delete everything. Don't ask me. But I want to focus on file, and we can use the same shell expansion that we used before. But this time, instead of the 3, I'm going to put 1 through 100.txt, and it's pretty much the same example as what we did before, except this time we're including 1 and 2 in order to remove all the files. So let's see what that does. And you see here with one simple command, we were able to delete 100 files altogether. Now in Windows, you would sit there clicking all day just to delete files. And same thing here, if you're going to use the GUI, you're going to be there all day doing the same thing. But these are quick little examples of how you can harness the power of the terminal in order to do a lot of work fairly quickly. As another side note, for those who are unsure of how GUIs work, this is exactly how GUI works. When you actually click on things in the GUI, it just runs code in the background to do what it is that you want it to do. So as an example, right? Let's say we want to create a directory here. Most people will right click and say new folder and call the folder, let's say my directory 1. And we go ahead and click create. All that does is it ties into some code that runs in the background that runs the make dir command that you've already learned in previous examples. So meaning if I were to do make dir and I say my directory 2, you see that right next to my directory 1, my directory 2 shows up. So meaning if you guys get great with the terminal, you don't have to use the GUI anymore, because all a GUI is a way of clicking things to run code that does the work that you really would just type in a terminal. And that's a basic understanding of how GUIs work in a sense. There's a lot more complicated things to it, but at a high level, that's your basic. So welcome back, everyone. By now, you should have all the information necessary in order to remove files and directories. And of course, you also learned that we need to be very, very careful about what options we give it. And we also need to make sure that we measure twice, possibly 3 times before you cut once. You don't want to delete something using the -F option and find out that you actually needed that later. Now keep practicing this skill you just learned, and of course it seems very difficult at first, but once you get a couple of tries under your belt, it becomes very, very easy and very natural afterwards. Now if you have any additional questions or something wasn't clear to you, go ahead and leave me a comment in the comment section below. As always, make sure you check out the description. That is where you will find all the latest and greatest information. If you love the video, go ahead and give me a like for the video to make sure you don't miss out on all the things that we talk about when it comes to engineering, tech, and finances. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, turn on your notifications so you get notified whenever we upload new videos to the channel. And lastly, share the video with a family member or friend so that way we can kick off their journey and they can learn all things engineering, tech, and finances. So I'll see you guys in the next video.